snow, silence, and a crime that spins wildly out of control. The Coen Brothers' Fargo isn't just a thriller. It's a darkly funny, uniquely American tale of greed, chaos, and one very polite police chief. We're heading north to uncover what makes this chilling classic so unforgettable. Stay with us.
Get ready for the 3324 podcast, where lifelong friends Dean Legiro and Eric Kuber share their love of all things music and movies. Dean has directed short films and is a music trivia buff. And Eric, trained in audio engineering, brings his extensive knowledge of music and film to the conversation as they discuss, debate, and celebrate their favorite albums, films, and much more.
Welcome, friends, to the 3324 podcast. Eric, we have a guest with us now. We have a professional podcaster.
We do indeed. Now. Yeah.
So all bow and give your attention to Mr. Nick Leshy.
Thank you. I bow before you. You are the inspiration.
Well, now you're stealing from Chicago. You're the inspiration.
Oh God.
Nick, we may be the inspiration, but Nick is doing double the work. Nick has literally two podcasts that he commandeers, right? The first one is the paranormal.
Yeah, Paranormal Popcast, where we look at paranormal characters and stories portrayed in pop culture, like Bigfoot and UFOs. And then we also have greatest characters in pop culture history. So we look at some of the top characters of all time: Sherlock Holmes, Romeo and Juliet, Princess Leia. It's just and Mr. Spock with Eric on as guest.
So Eric was on the Spock episode, so definitely check that out. We're going to put a link in the show notes for that, and you can we'll put it on YouTube. But definitely, Nick has been with us like from the jump.
Batman Begins, I think, was the first episode of yours that I was in.
It should have been called Nick Leshy Begins. the origin story. But if you're listening, if you are a returner, Nick, you've heard him on our episodes, go check him out. Go give him a subscribe. It doesn't cost anything on YouTube. Just hit the subscribe button. You'll get a notification when he's got new episodes out. And he's got literally two different types of shows, so you can pick and choose what you want. It's always interesting though. I listen to both, and I do listen to them, and I comment, and I do all the things that I ask our audience to do. So if you would do us that favor, if you ain't gonna like our stuff, go ahead, at least like Nick's.
And it is under the banner of
City of Kick Entertainment.
City of Kick Entertainment. There you go.
Yeah. So we'll
blog, right?
Yep. It started out as a blog for more than 15 years. So
yeah. So we'll put a link in the show notes to that, and you go check that out. And of course, Nick, welcome aboard. It's always great.
Always good to be back.
Yeah.
I love our conversations.
Of course.
So.
And to talk of film. We're talking film.
Talk of film. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know where that came from. Sorry.
Well, we're talking celluloid today.
Yeah. Celluloid.
Celluloid. No one ever calls it that anymore. No. That's the hoi polloi. It's like, oh, celluloid.
Even the term film, I think, is considered
outdated. Yeah.
If you say film, it's highbrow, or it's it's never a movie anymore. But do you guys ever notice, have you ever used the term watch a movie?
Watch a movie? All the time.
I went to the movie. I went to the movie. I said I saw a movie. But now it's like everybody's using the term watch. I've never used that term until now. I used Saturday night. I watched Jaws.
Well, that's the past. You're using it in the past tense, right? When I'm at home, I watch a movie. When I was in the theater, I saw the Fantastic Four. But when I'm at home, I'm going to go watch.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, when you watch a TV or a movie on television or a home entertainment, you watched it. Yeah, but you go to the theater.
Maybe watch is more TV, I guess.
Yeah.
It's a good point.
So it's so jarring. It's so weird for me to hear people say, "I watched that movie over the weekend."
Interesting.
In the theater, and
to me, there is in my lexicon.
Mm-hmm.
There's a difference between that. To me, watching a film, watching something as you're at home doing it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I saw a concert, right? Mm-hmm. I saw I saw Lord Huron last month. I didn't watch them. I saw them live,
Yeah.
or I saw a concert. I went to go see a comedian, right,
Yes.
perform.
Right.
So for performances, I will say saw. If it's something I'm doing at home, I'm going to go watch TV, which could mean a movie. I'm going to go watch whatever.
Right. Exactly.
Right? Is that
That's exactly it. I mean, but people use the term watch like all the time. And I can't get used to it. It's weird, but
Nick, what do you use saw and watch?
I use watch, but now that you're mentioning it, yeah, I could see,
it's always been that way. It's like,
that's interesting.
Yeah.
Like I never differentiated it, but I see the point.
Because
it's, I guess it may, and it's bigger, it's a bigger event. It's, you go to the movie,
an external thing.
It's an experience, right?
It's an external experience. I saw.
Watch an experience, you see it, right? Or you experience it, or
Yeah, I think saw the term saw has a bigger connotation.
Yeah.
Like I saw Fantastic Four in the theater. I watched Fantastic Four last night on Disney Plus.
Yes, it must have been a word that's popped into my lexicon like recently, because I'm thinking back to when I first saw the movie that we're about to see and talk about. I don't think I would have said, "Hey, I went and I watched Fargo." I probably went. I saw Fargo.
Yeah.
So
It's
funny how just language changes and evolves because of
Sorry,
how
we digress. But I mean,
let's see about when we saw this film by talking about the stats. Which this was released in March of 1996, coming up on its 30th anniversary.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was directed, written, produced, and edited by Joel and Ethan Coen. Even though they'll put their names individually on certain things, they just do it all together. They just do that to, break stuff up. $7 million budget. $60 million box office. So well done. Unlike the Hudsucker Proxy, which was its previous film, which was the upside down world of that. Big budget, made no money. 7 Oscar nominations: Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actress, 1 for that. Best Supporting Actor, which is weird that William H. Macy was nominated for Best Supporting Actor when he was the lead, I believe, as much as Frances McDormand was. Anyway, Best Original Screenplay, which it won, Best Cinematography, and Best Editing. So those are two wins for that. And I saw this in the theater. I didn't watch it. Saw it in the theater. Eric, did you see it?
I did.
When it came out?
Mm-hmm.
Nick?
I did, in the movie theater.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And the Coen Brothers still weren't at this point. The Coen Brothers still weren't like all that. Again, they had kind of their biggest film up to this point was Miller's Crossing. Barton Fink was kind of weird, non-commercial, really artsy, right, and indie. Like they were building their filmography at the time, right? And we look back and we say, wow, these are all just incredible films. But at the time, when each one came out, it's kind of like, oh, this Barton Fink is weird. It's kind of it's John Turturro with the eraser head hair, and we don't know what's going on. So they were doing these quirky films that seem to each one take place in their own universe, like each Coen Brothers, or maybe it's one universe of just all unique people. Eric, I mean, do you get what I'm saying? Like, it's kind of like there's nothing normal about a Coen Brothers film.
No.
Let me start off by saying that even though the films on their surface are normal, seem to be normal stories, there's nothing normal, and I don't mean in a bad way, about a Coen Brothers film.
No.
About the characters.
Yeah, the characters are always very slightly surreal, I suppose. They're very I think quirky is probably the best term.
You got it. I wrote it.
But ever since Raising Arizona, for me, because I think, Dean, you had seen Blood Simple. I remember you talking about that way back in the day with their first film. And I remember then you were saying like, oh, how weird that was. Yeah. It's like, I just saw this weird movie like Blood Simple. It was just,
Yeah. And that's when I used to go see anything.
Right. You didn't know how to describe it. And, I hadn't seen that, but Raising Arizona blew my mind. I was like, what the fuck is this? Like, I'm watching this thing and I'm like, this thing is hilarious. It is, it is unlike any comedy I've ever seen. And, because it was so epic at the same time, like the cinematography, the style. I mean, it was the combination of all of that was great. And I've been kind of like looking forward to every film since then, in their filmography. So for me, it was always a pleasure to see, to go see one of their films, and I didn't realize there were a few that, that I didn't know they had done, like Hudsucker Proxy. I didn't even know that was theirs until after the fact. But,
yeah.
But
Nick, what was
Fargo? Was like, wow,
Yeah.
What was the first one you saw? What was the first Fargo? Not the first Fargo, the first Coen Brothers film you saw.
Blood Simple, but I saw it in film class. So I was a senior in high school, and that was one that my professor showed. And I remember thinking, and that's the best way to see a movie like that is in film class, because you analyze all the shots and all the techniques that they're using. But I remember then when this movie came out, Fargo, a lot of people were like, oh, it's part of that trend after Pulp Fiction, where you had a lot of these gritty kind of film noir type movies. But I was like, no, they did Blood Simple, and Blood Simple kind of felt like it, So this came out in like 1996, so like 2 years after Quentin Tarantino's Pulp Fiction. But yeah, Blood Simple was the first exposure, and then this one. And then I remember Miller's Crossing, seeing that after the fact. I saw that on video. I didn't see that in the movie theater.
Yeah.
Like, that's one of my favorites of theirs.
Yeah.
And then a lot of the other movies that they made later, fantastic. There's just so much talent.
So two statements. One to tie in with what Eric was saying. I wrote, and more specific to. I was going to say it's more specific to Fargo, but then if I think about Oh Brother and I think about other films, it's not. Yeah. The thing about the Coen Brothers is that everyone in the film is so quirky that it makes the world that they're in normal. Everybody in these films have some type of quirk or manner about them that is just to the left of center, that then grounds that whole world in that normalcy. Mm-hmm. It's never really a fish out of water. It's like these people are weird, but even the side characters are a little strange and have little quirks about them, which kind of ground the film. And these films could easily go into parody, especially Fargo could easily go into parody. But because the whole world is built around it, it keeps it logical, and it keeps it okay. I'm entering this world, like I'm entering the world of Oh Brother, where it's old timey, and they're all like that, and everything's kind of weird and desaturated and skewed. And I think that the Coen Brothers are kind of masters of that. And also, are they the masters of just not crime noir necessarily, but just noir film, right? They're just making films that are just have a different feel.
Absolutely. I think they're looking at things, they're looking at the world in a very different lens. And I dare say that, it's almost European, in a sense of the sensibility of certain, I mean, I get it, like when people talk about the French films and all this kind of stuff, and just their way of how things are made. Coen Brothers, I think, is kind of like probably the most foreign, I dare say, American filmmakers. They're the closest thing to like a foreign film, because of their eccentricities and the sort of surrealism of the movies and the quirkiness, and just like you say, it's they're building. Nothing is quite as normal as it appears, and yet it is normal, because they're the way they comment on this stuff. If you ever heard them like in a commentary or talking about their films, it's like they're just so deadpan, and they're saying it's like, well, it's this is all logical to us, so why do people consider us whatever. So yeah, I mean, it's like they believe in what they do, which is a great thing. It's like they don't see it as they're doing anything special, but
it's just
we all agree that it is something else, so it's
their particular worldview, right, Nick?
Right.
I mean, they're saying we don't see anything wrong with this, and there isn't particularly, but it's just their way of expressing these different things.
Yeah, I think Eric hit the nail on the head when he said it kind of has that European type feel to it without losing the commercialization storytelling stuff that American films have mastered, right? I mean, I see that kind of in the noir genre, maybe the Wachowski siblings with Bound. I think that came out in the 90s. I think it was after this one, actually. And then, of course, Quentin Tarantino. I mean, his whole career is about that kind of style. You take this kind of like 1970s, exploitation movies, European style movies, and just make them commercial and, really gripping. So, but yeah, I think the Coen Brothers, they're so different, like, I don't know if you would recognize a Coen Brothers movie just by seeing it, but there are then familiarities that you see in all their movies together, even the ones that they do on their own. Like Ethan has started directing a couple on his own. Joel did a couple on his own as well. But for the most part, they collaborate, and it's tough. Like you said, they put one name on the director, and sometimes you wonder where they kind of blended together, like, because they collaborated, they really co-directed a lot of these movies.
Yeah, which is interesting and surprising that it worked for as long as it did, right? Because usually you're going to have some blow up, or they must have some arrangement or some agreement or some type of signal system where, okay, like, it's time for you to back off this. I'm going to cede my idea to you and give you control, because it's hard enough with a director. These guys are also writing and editing. They're really taking total control of the thing. So
they definitely have a pulse on what makes great entertainment. Their films have, a lot of action, a lot of tension where it needs to be. There's a lot of comedy. There is, all of those elements are there in pretty much most of their films, even the most dire ones, the ones that are most like sort of downbeat, and it just has that sort of black humor to it. And they really know how to do that and balance it really, really well. I know a lot of their films are better than others, but I don't really recall ever seeing a bad Coen Brothers film. I think at the very least, even the ones that are not that great are still interesting enough, or at least that it's the Coen Brothers, so you appreciate it.
They're giving you something,
right? Exactly. So yeah.
All right, let's get into Fargo then, right? Let's go through the cast first. I think we got this movie is kind of like this is an actor's film, because these actors are really being tasked with, I'm sure Nick as an actor has had to do his fair share of accents, and you kind of work it and you kind of do the best you can. This kind of thing that they're going for is something called Minnesota Nice. Okay. And it's not only is it's not only an accent, but it's also an inflection, which is more than an accent, is an inflection of and a way of saying things. And that's where the Minnesota Nice comes in, is that everything kind of lilts upward when you're speaking, to put a positive spin on stuff, even if you're like, oh yeah, like when you're like, even when you're kind of like saying that about something not so great, there's always that kind of like little lilting up. So the following actors really had their work cut out for them. Frances McDormand as Marge Gunderson. Love you, Margie. William H. Macy as Jerry Lundegaard. What the Christ.
Oh, my God. I'm laughing. Everything, just the mention of these people, these characters. I'm already thinking about the film. I can't get it out of my head. It was such a pleasure to revisit it. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'll do it. But you're darn tootin'.
Yeah.
Steve Buscemi as Carl Showalter. He's the only one that didn't really have to do an accent, but essentially, he's like,
no, he's very on. He's very,
Thank you, Jerry. My man, Harv Presnell, as Wade Gustafson. Harv Presnell, I loved him in this movie. I'd never heard of him. Yeah, he would get his like due in Saving Private Ryan. He had like a real that major role of commander.
Yep.
Yeah, the general read the letter, but here it's no Gene, no money. No Gene, no money. Kids going down to McDonald's. You know what they're doing? They're not drinking shakes. Peter Stormare. The first time I saw this guy, I thought it was Bruce Willis. I'm like, I thought it was like a Bruce Willis knockoff. I'm like, why is Bruce Willis in this film? Because he has the same exact like facial structure as Bruce Willis, like at that time, and then they would be in Armageddon together. Oddly enough, Kristen Rudrud as Jean Lundegaard. Let's see, who else do we have? Steve Park as Mike Yanagita. God, so uncomfortable. And then, of course, he's on Wikipedia. He's listed last, but I have a story about it. Bruce Campbell was in this film, uncredited, as a soap opera actor on TV. Now, back in the early 2000s, before like all the conventions were like now everybody does conventions, right? They all do meet and greets. They all sit behind the thing with a Sharpie. And in the early 2000s, it wasn't a big thing. And Eric, this is when I don't know if you were still with Suncoast, but in the year 2000 for Suncoast, they brought everybody out to Minneapolis. It was Y2K. They had a big like blowout. They had all these bands and had these meet and greets, and Bruce Campbell was there. So I'm like, okay, I loved Bruce Campbell at the time. I was like, the big question, I got to walk up to Bruce Campbell, and the only thing I said to him was that you in Fargo? And he's like, yeah. He goes, yeah, that was me. That was like a soap opera I did when I was really young, but I know the Coen, friends with the Coen Brothers, so they kind of put it in there. And then he signed his Ash photo.
That's awesome.
He wrote Groovy, and then he's, but it was like I had to give him my nerd street cred that I noticed back in 2000. And I'm like, is that you in Fargo? He's like, yeah, that was I was really young. And they got to use that. So anyway, those are the main players in this. But this movie is populated with so many other characters. Oh wait, where is he? John Carroll Lynch as Norm Gunderson as well. Love you, Margie. There's that great scene in with the two of them when
he's my favorite, one of my favorite characters in the movie.
He's great.
So small. It's like a throwaway role, but it's so pivotal to defining, exactly what Marge is about.
They those two actually went so far into their character together that they actually came up with their backstory. That they got married when they were young. He was a police officer as well, but they both couldn't be on the force, and she was a better cop, so he decided to retire. And like they came up with that whole thing. There's the great shot when she gets the phone call and about the murders, and he's like, "I'll make you eggs. You got to eat your breakfast." But the scene in the kitchen when she gets up and leaves, and he's eating the eggs, and she goes out, and the camera doesn't move, and it's just him eating eggs. But meanwhile, she's like doing whatever she does, and then she comes out. She goes, "Oh, the prowler needs a jump." Like that whole scene just kind of developed with the guy just eating eggs, doing nothing. That's like a Coen Brothers like staple of just like things just like happening, but nothing's happening. But something eventually it turns into something where she comes back in, and he hears the door, and he's like, "Marge," he goes, "Prowler needs a jump."
And we have to give a shout out to Roger Deakins. The cinematography in this movie it's one of the best looking films of the 90s for sure. I mean, he's done quite a bit of their films, but the shot that you're referring to when she opens the door to come back in, how solid those colors are in the room. It's bright. It's the wood paneling, all that stuff, and then her opening the door and seeing the white and the blue, like it's sort of like right out. It's just amazing work.
Yeah,
the guy's he's a fucking genius. I mean, he's a master.
He was the go-to guy. I mean, his work on His Brother was exquisite, also with the desat of everything and just kind of finding the right colors for that. So I got off track with that little side scene. So the beginning credit. The beginning opening title card says that this was based on a true story. Although we changed the names to protect the dead people, but not to protect the people that are alive or something like that. And then it turns out that, the Coen Brothers like, well, no, it's not really. And then they backtracked and said it was, and it's not. And I think when you play fast and loose with that, it gives you, I think, Nick, it gives you some license to kind of get people's buy-in. Like, oh, this is based on something real.
Yeah, you see that done a lot, based on true stories, or you wonder, okay, it just puts you on your guard. Like, you're like, okay, this is a fictional movie; it's a dramatization. So if it's based on something true, they probably took some liberties. But then you're like, if it's all made up, and you just say it's based on, it's takes you, you don't know what to expect. It just puts you in a different frame of mind, especially for these kind of noir type movies.
Yeah,
but that's the Coens. It's almost like they're characters themselves, aren't they? In their movie, it's like whatever the mood strikes them is like, or no, it's yes or no, and I think they like to have fun with the people, the constant like promoting and all that, and but yeah, I think it's like out of respect for the dead. Yeah, it was like we keep the names.
People have looked to see where have there been these like murders, and so they've tried to find parallels, and there are some similarities here or there. So people really take it seriously. Like,
some guy maybe they killed his wife and put her in a wood chipper and all that. Like that was a real thing apparently, but there was no connection there. It was just, that was coincidence, but I think, but yeah,
it makes it much more interesting by saying
it does. It absolutely
based on
does.
a true story.
Yeah.
Because it's so far fetched, so ridiculous.
Well,
some of the
you know
plot
what?
Points, right?
Stranger things have happened, though. I mean, that's the thing. That's the beauty of their work is like they could show the world, and it seems like a tall tale or a fable, but these things could happen. I mean,
that gives them the liberty. I think that gives them the freedom by saying this is based on real events, and then you watch this story like, holy shit! Like even if 25% of this is true, it turns out none of it is. But they're kind of getting you. They're getting your buy-in, right? And they're getting a little bit more of your attention than you watch this and be like, oh, this is so fucking far-fetched. It's like so dumb. Yeah. But it's like, wait, is this? What parts of this?
It's so far-fetched that you start to believe it. It is because that's what draws you in. It is. It's like fodder for it to build up. To take it to that level, but yet at the same time, you're dealing with these everyday kind of people, and it really kind of just levels out, and it just makes you wonder, like, and it also requires you to go back and watch these movies again. They're always, I can always go back to any one of their films. Yeah. So.
You mentioned Roger Deakins. I think, I think what's important also is that there are two other characters in this film. The weather is definitely a character in this film, and the accents. And we talked a little bit about the Minnesota Nights, but those are both characters in this film because they both give you this. They're almost contrasting. The winter is so harsh and so cold and hard. The snow is hard.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. The ice is hard in this film. It's like a harsh winter. All the cops are not like, none of these cops are dressed like cops. They're all wearing parkas. They're not in like slick police uniforms.
They've got mittens on their hands.
They're all dressed.
Their guns with mittens on.
Yeah, they're dressed like they're on Hoth. Like almost like they're not. They look more like cartoon characters than they do like actual police, because all of them are over bundled. When the one guy goes to see the guy who's like brushing the ice, he like puts his parka hood on and then closes it, and you literally don't see his face. He walks up to them and has a conversation through like a hole, So like the weather is part of it, and then the accents again. It informs how these people kind of. And that conversation is like that, where he's like, he said he, was kept saying about the, I gotta, I'm going crazy at the lake. I'm going crazy at the lake, and that's the story. Like there's like the really like salt of the earth people, and what did he look like? He was funny looking, and then the prostitutes, earlier was like, he's like funny looking, And that girl, the first prostitute, was actually the dialect coach. She helped.
Yeah.
She helped Frances McDormand. So, So that whole thing, again, it's world building and universe building. Like they put you in that, and she never goes to like a different city, Marge, like where that isn't a thing, and I think that's important. It keeps, they keep you in this literally in this snow globe, for lack of a better term, of this of this crime that happens, and Jerry Lundegaard, who is probably one of the saddest characters. Like I used to think it was funny, and a lot of what he does is funny, but it's out of it's a man who is out of feels like he's out of options, and I think he's does things hoping that it'll just work out in the end, Nick. It seems like some of this was thought out, but he's not a mastermind, and he's kind of only thinking about 2 steps ahead when you're something like this with the amount of money and the fraud that he's pulling on the lender.
I remember seeing this for the first time and just laughing my butt off at the dialects and Jerry's character, and seeing it now again, it's like almost like you said, sad, but at the same time disturbing that somebody like this could do that to his wife. And then when he looks at his son, and the son's crying and bawling because his mom has been kidnapped, he doesn't know anything. And you're like, what would drive a person to do this? Is it just the debt that he's in? But then you see he's not a very likable character. He doesn't have morals. He doesn't care. But yeah, and then just seeing that's when she has the bag over her head after they kidnap her, and she's running around. She thinks she's escaping, and they're just laughing. Steve Buscemi's character's laughing as she falls down and trips. And I'm like, wow, that's scary now. But again, when I saw it when I was younger, I'm laughing my butt off, just like Steve Buscemi's character is. So it kind of the levels in this are like amazing, So
it makes you feel all kinds of. Like we're laughing because we're uncomfortable.
Yeah,
is what it is. It's not. We're not laughing like, oh, this is hilarious. We're just laughing because we don't know what else to do.
Yeah. But that's the Coen Brothers, knack of doing that. Like they could bring humor, and then in the next wink of an eye, you're like shocked.
Right.
And so it's like just great storytelling, not just throwing in jokes for the sake of it doesn't seem real. This was like realistic. You're like, this could really have happened. I could see this as a true story, and that really happened, and there's still humor in that, right?
And the thing about Lundegaard too is the fact that I think, and somebody wrote it, is the fact that he doesn't even realize that he's so out of touch with what he's doing. It seems like he's, and he thinks that everything's going to go right, and when it doesn't go right, he reacts in such a way like, why isn't this working? Like, what is, and it's like to see that progression of him, like slowly starting to get a little bit agitated because the realization is setting in that he's, that this isn't working out, like that, and that desperation kicks in, and it's like, but it's such an edgy performance of him just being so smug about it, and then but then by the end of it, he's like, he's screaming and he's, crying like he's an animal. It was so disturbing. Yeah,
he was doing just enough to like get him to the next day. Like that's all he was ever doing was just kind of like when the guy called about the loan, right? And he's like, "Well, I need those serial numbers. I'll fax them to you. I mean, I'll send them to you." And the guy's like, "Okay," and that put him off. For like he kept on buying time. That's all he kept doing was buying time in the hopes that, because then when the parking lot deal seemed like it was going to go through, he tried to get in touch with Shep and say, hey, call this off. I don't need this. Mm-hmm. So he hadn't even thought that far ahead. Everything was just very kind of, well, I need the money. How am I going to get the money? And if I fake the kidnapping, I can get, and I'll pay these guys some of the money, but I'm actually getting like $1 million, So the plan was a smart plan. He just didn't plan past it. He just planned on it working, and didn't plan for any exits off of it. And that's all he got was exits.
There's no sense of urgency to it at all. Like he comes home, he's just sitting there, like he's not thinking of alternate things to do, that, whatever, he's not frantic. He's just very calm at first. He's just, whatever. Tomorrow's another day. Like you said, I guess I'll see what happens tomorrow, whatever. But I just love that. And that's all the characters, right? They're all kind of like that. They're all like moving so slowly and so matter of fact. I mean, there's no like people like, getting all like, only when the moment comes, like there's, but it's very, very minimal in that sense. Like they're just sort of, everybody's just so laid back and calm that it's just like this shit happening. And it's like, oh yeah, that's, whatever. But it's hilarious.
Yeah,
Nick, you believe it.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right, Eric. It seemed like the only one was Steve Buscemi's character that had any sense of urgency.
Absolutely, yeah.
He was impatient. He wanted to talk, like he seemed to be in this. He seemed to be dropped into this strange world because even his partner,
not
really
very verbal. He doesn't talk about any dialogue. Yeah,
put him off. But it seems like Steve Buscemi's character is the only one that kind of has a plan, has a code, or understands what needs to happen, wants to push it along a little further.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Jerry, though, going back to Jerry though, like he's like, he seems like some guy that's like been lying every day of his life where it just comes naturally,
Yeah, you're right.
Like you say, he doesn't have urgency. And then that one time when he does kind of lose his temper, when he's like, you want me to count the cars? I'll go count the inventory. And that's a lie too, because he was using that as an excuse to escape, She's like, he's fleeing the interview, right?
He's fleeing the interview. Well, and that goes to the early scene with the dry coat or whatever.
Yeah.
When he added it on, and the guy's like, you called, you're a fucking liar. Liar. It's like, all right, let me go see what I can do about this. And then he goes into the other room and says, oh, you got tickets for the game,
That's all that.
And he put on this fake face, right? He put on, well, this has never happened before. I spoke to my manager and we'll take $100 off, and that's a totally fake salesman face, right? Because when he left, he was kind of like, oh, what's going on? You watching TV or whatever. And he gets berated by that guy, and he just kind of like, he also knows, I think he kind of, because when that guy dressed him down, the customer, he's like, this kind of stuff, you're a liar. You told me to come down, and he knows that he lied. Like you could see it in his face. He wasn't trying to hide that he didn't do that. But so yeah, to Eric's point, I think the guy is just kind of he does it, but and we don't really know what the means to the end was though with the park. Like what was that going to do for him? Like this whole scheme, like. If he had gotten the money, he was going to build a parking lot and then run the park.
It seems to me like he just needed money. Like he probably was in so much debt. And like you said, just taking it day by day, like a Ponzi scheme. It's like, if I could swindle them out of some money, then I could pay back those debts and I could do this and I could, but he was making up inventory to get loans that on, assets that he didn't have, he was just making it up. But this seemed like a real deal. Like you said, this thing that he proposed to his father-in-law, if he had just had that money, he probably would have had like legit money because they looked at it and they're like, this looks good.
Yeah,
we'll do it.
Looks good.
It
looks good. Yeah.
And that's funny because Wade was like, so
what do you want? 10%? What do you want?
What's your finder's fee?
Finder's fee?
Like Jerry's like, huh?
Finder's fee?
I just want all the money.
He's like, huh?
We're not a bank. What is this?
If I want a guarantee, I'll go see, I don't see anything like that here. I don't want your damn word, Jerry.
And then he's like, oh, you don't want the finder's fee? So I hope you don't mind. We just do it independently. No money for you?
Hope you don't mind if we move on this independently, Jerry.
And then are we supposed to feel bad for him at this point? But it's like, no.
I think so. Well,
I don't know.
It's an element of pathos. Like you have to pity the guy. Like, it's a sad story. And William H. Macy, like his eyes were he was so thin in this movie that his eyes were so big. Mm-hmm. He looked they're so blue. He just looked so pathetic. Like he looked like a wounded animal almost, or someone just struggling to keep their head above water. Like he's trying to juggle the lies, the embezzling. I guess he feels like he's under his father-in-law's thumb because he owned the dealership as well. And this also seemed like a guy that, by pushing these things, just kicking the can down the road a little bit, is just trying to survive another day, just trying to keep his head above water.
Mm-hmm.
And that seems like what his life was like. Because then he'd come home and he'd be all happy, like he'd put on that fake face, or when the father-in-law would go, "Hey, hiya, Wade," like he wasn't talking like that before,
And as Nick pointed out before, I mean, he must have been doing this quite a long time, practically half his life, at least when he got married into this family, like you say, it's like he's under his father-in-law's thumb. And so you can just imagine the snowball that has accumulated. We probably don't even know half the stuff that he's done or lied about prior to this, so, and probably why he feels like he can get away with this now at this point, because he's, so thinks he's so good at it, but he's obviously not. Yeah.
Yeah, there was the telling line at the dinner table when Wade came over for dinner, and he's like, "Oh, hey, Wade, did you get a chance to look at that proposal or whatever?" It's like, I want to make sure I take care of Gene and Scott. He's like, "Gene and Scotty won't ever have to worry."
Yeah.
It's like, not you.
Cold. That was cold.
You left somebody out of that equation. Like that pretty much told Jerry, like, this is your worth, which really is
that line informed the viewer, the audience, exactly where he, his position in this whole thing, the relationship. You knew everything when he said that. You knew everything about that, that family and that dynamic right there in just that one line. Brilliant stuff. Yeah.
I'm telling you, Harv Presnell was just magical in this film. He wasn't in it much, but he's just, he had that overbearingness and that not condescension, but kind of that tone in his voice that he felt that Jerry really was. That's why, you're sure you check these numbers, because it's Jerry. He's like, "Are you sure this is right?" That type of thing. But on the flip side, our protagonist in the film doesn't show up until a third of the way through. She doesn't show up until a half hour through.
Yep.
In Frances McDormand, who her performance was more. I think it was more new. Hers needed to be more nuanced without being a parody. Because it was a woman. She was a sheriff. She's pregnant, and it's kind of like, oh yeah, like it could come off as kind of dumb blondish. I'll put that in air quotes.
Yeah.
And I think her acting in this has that nuance. It skirts that line. She really kind of dialed in to someone who's very polite, but is not stupid.
She is definitely not stupid, right? She is like, she's smart. When she goes to the crime scene, she's already analyzing what took place and what happened, right? Mm-hmm. And then she questions Lou or whoever the other cop was, like, "I'm questioning your policing skills," right? With some of the things that he's trying to think about, right? But the dynamics with her husband too, she's getting that call first thing in the morning, and she's half asleep. Then you realize she's pregnant, like 8 months pregnant, not just like a little bit pregnant, a lot pregnant. Yeah. And that just him willing to get up and make breakfast for her. She's done this many times. Probably she's gotten these kinds of calls, maybe not for a triple murder, but she's got, and then she goes out there and she just chugs along. She's willing to do all the work, and
she does.
Yeah, and she's like a detective, like in terms of like
she's kind of piecing really smart. Yeah, these guys are giving her information like that when they're sitting at the buffet or whatever. Yeah. And the guy comes over and he's like, gives her the phone call stuff. She goes, "Oh, very interesting. I think I'll take a ride." Like all this, she's getting information from like different.
She's a great character and really well done by Frances McDormand.
Yeah, and then she's talking to the detective Cyber. So she's getting information from all these different places and kind of pulling those threads together. Mm-hmm. Right. And like you said, on her own time frame, she goes to see Jerry the first time just to kind of almost just like as a, I got to do, it's procedure. I just got to check in on you, and no cars missing. It's like, yeah, no cars missing. All good. And she's like, okay, you're clear. Like I needed to clear you. But then other things developed. The phone call from Shep Proudfoot, and mm-hmm. Did you get a phone call? No. I think it's stuff with ADR in, because it is certainly not. No one moves their lips that little and speaks that deeply. Yep.
So he got the guys from Shep, like going back to talking about Carl and Steve Buscemi and Peter Stormare. Like one of them he relied on, right, and the other one so it was always like which one was which, because it seems like Peter's character was the one that's like just quiet, and then but once he shoots that cop, it just the domino effect. He's killing everybody. Like he's even Steve Buscemi's character in the end, right? He throws him in the wood chipper. Like so he's just like this crazy psycho. At the very end when he's in the car and she's driving him, you look at it, I thought he was gonna jump through the front seat or something. Like he's just a monster. But Steve Buscemi's character is just like really. I was like at the start of the movie, like who is the star of this movie? You think it's just going to be a character piece, but then when Frances McDormand's character finally comes in, even though it's 36 minutes into the movie, she takes it's all in her steering wheel. She's the one that takes it.
Well, let's talk about that death scene. I mean, that triple murder right there. I mean, that was something, right? I mean, the blackness of night, and like that road was so like anybody could have just like spun out. I mean, you could just imagine the dry patches of the black ice on that road and the speed that they were going. That was an amazing scene. I'm like tense just watching that scene. Just behind the wheel, I would be petrified going at that speed, and that black,
the lights disappear that he's chasing,
and you hear that,
like he's like, where did they go? Like, what happened to him?
Yeah, it was such a tense moment,
so
and then of course the next morning when she goes out there, and again she's doing all the work. She's bending down. The guy's just fucking standing there with the cup of coffee. He's like doing shit. Like what? He's not helping her. Like she's pregnant, and yet she's doing all the dirty work. Like let this look, whatever. And
what's your car, Margie?
Coffee. But she's amazing in it. She's and then they have this little subplot of the acquaintance, I guess,
Mike,
which was
which is one of the most one of the most uncomfortable scenes put on film. It's just because the guy, it's first of all, she gets the call at like 11:15 at night, right? He's like, oh, did I bother you? I'm sorry. Can we meet? And they go to the Radisson, and he tells this story that's just, again, another, like, I don't know if that's a theme of people that are lying and just trying to be something else than what they are.
Yeah.
The same thing. And then he tries to kind of get close to her, and she's like, nah, go back to the other side. But then she also diffuses it because he's like, oh, I'm sorry. She goes, no, it's okay. This way I don't have to turn my neck to look. Like she's really good at
she's very good at that.
Not, getting her point across, but also not making people feel bad about it. Like very, very motherly, right? Very motherly instincts that she has towards all these people are kind of like the way she talks to Shep. She goes, you haven't really done anything bad, like this. Do you really want to get involved with that? Do you really want this kind of thing? Like she always tries to appeal to their better angels. Which goes to the scene in the end with Peter Stormare, where she's like, why? What? I don't understand this. Right? It's a beautiful day, right? Yeah. She has that monologue at the end, like, I don't understand why, why you did this, So
why does anybody do this? Like, I guess she's supposed to be like such a good judge of character, but then even with Mike, like, I was always wondering, like, what is the purpose of that scene? Like,
I don't know one.
But I think it shows a little bit her compassion and how she reads people right away. She knows, okay, this is not just a friendly reunion. Like
it could have been like meant as a red herring in a way, like the setup of, oh, is she really going on a date with this guy? Like, you're starting to kind of.
It seems like their relationship was so good with her husband, right? And then you find out about Mike later that he was stalking the other. She didn't die. He was like stalking her. Like, so it's you see the shock too in her face, like. What? Like, I didn't get that, like, it's almost like here is this great detective and she couldn't read that,
she let her guard down for a friend, right? And kind of took it.
But it's a testament to her character that she, tries to see the good in everybody and try, the compassion. So that scene it's a really good scene because she, like you say, Dean, she totally diffused it. and just she's straight and straight and narrow, straight as an arrow. Like she is.
Yeah, she didn't need to slap
a great
or anything.
No, she didn't do anything. But that's who she is, and that's who she will be for the rest of the film. You know, so that's, kind of takes you on that little detour there to go, oh, we're kind of playing with her a little. Maybe there's something about her that something dirty or something, but no, she, and that's good storytelling. That's good characterization. Yeah. So,
yeah. And I guess the flip side would be the Steve Buscemi scene when he goes to see Jose Feliciano.
and he real Jose Feliciano.
He's trying to act like he's like something different than what he is. Also, right? He's taking this woman to this, and he's trying to make conversation. And she's like, "Well, what do you do for a living?" And he's like, So how long? You like being an escort, or how long? And she's like, "What are you talking about?" He's trying to make conversation, but he just can't. Like he just But he wants to be that person that goes to like a nice club, and sees a show and takes a woman out. Like it seemed like he kind of, aspired maybe to something like that, even though he's just just a really dirty criminal.
Well, but he just wants to be a better person. He could maybe, but not quite, like maybe not going that far, but just to have a sense of normalcy in his life. I think he's, he's a little, I think I get the sense that he's just sick of doing this kind of shit. I think he wants that.
No patience.
Right. You know what I mean? So it's like he's looking to get out, maybe. I don't know. But, these
when
little
he sees
details.
Wade show up with the drop money, he's like, what the F is this? He's like, where's the other guy?
One fucking thing. Where's Jerry? No Gene, no money. No Gene.
And then they shoot each other. It becomes just one bigger thing after another. Another murder.
Just
then he shoots the guy leaving the parking lot. Right. It just escalates, like you said.
Yeah, and it's funny because they had the scene earlier with the parking lot guy when he went in to steal the plates, and he's like, not the parking. He's like, well, you have to pay them. You have to pay. Even those guys are like nice when they're trying to it's the minimum is $4.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, king clip-on tie. Everything is boiling. Just all these things are like boiling over. The fact that his partner doesn't talk to him. He's got nothing to do. The TV isn't working. Right? There's like all these little things are nagging at him.
Yeah.
Finally boils over. The funny thing I thought about today is there's like $920,000 buried in a suitcase
that nobody's ever going to find.
Well, they'll probably find it in the spring. I thought about. I'm like,
if you look at the Fargo TV series, they address that.
They address that. Okay,
they do. Yeah. Really? Okay,
they do.
That's part of it. That the money.
Season one, I think. Yeah, episode 3 or 4.
Okay, so there is a tie-in. Okay,
yeah, the whole anthology series. Every season is like a different time in this shared universe. And this geographic area.
I brought that up. That they did that.
But yeah, that's the movie ends, and you're like, money's still there.
Yeah,
what's gonna happen to that money?
Gotta go look for that red ice scraper in your.
Do you think he would have found it though? Honestly,
well, he put.
was that enough? I mean, I know, but do you think all that stretch of road though, and that fog and that white? I mean, I don't know.
Trying to deal with that. I mean, it's like you're going to remember where that money was, and he had it so easy. He didn't have to go back.
Yeah,
like he didn't have to go back. He had $1 million. He did not have to go back to his partner and give him the 40,000. And this right here tells you about his character, right? Because he complained about the tolls and all the complaining, and he wouldn't split the cost of the car. Right? He's like, I'm taking that fucking car, like I'm not. And Peter Stormare is like, just one of us pays for it. That wasn't so out of like bounds, I don't think, from one get through to another. It's like, what was a car back then? Like, give me like $5,000. Like, but on principle, he would not do it. Like he's had enough of like the indignation that he's had to deal with in his life, right? And he's like, the one time you should have like let it go is the axe in the back. You know,
And that scene too, just seeing him come back, from behind. That's
just wallops him. Yeah, you just get. I mean, it was a great cutaway. It was like a perfect cutaway, just as it was going into like his shoulder when he turned around. It was like,
He's yeah.
wow.
Yeah. And
Funny
that's why
thing-
Marge is very lucky. He didn't have a gun when he was doing the wood chipper scene, because he's killing everybody at this point. So
Right.
she's he just kind of looks at her like almost like not expecting like who would come now. It's like everybody I know is here. So
Yeah, and he tried to make a run for it. I'm surprised she was able to wrangle him too. I was kind of like, yeah, he got shot in the leg, but he's a monster.
Mm-hmm.
He's but maybe he's just resigned to it. Maybe at that point he's just kind of like, I like to think that he kind of just gave up, like he knew that it was, the jig was up.
Yeah,
because he's too much of a monster to not do something. But
he was like Frankenstein. He had those dead eyes.
Yeah.
There are decisions that people make in this, the characters make in this film that aren't explained, that aren't resolved, and I think it's up to us to kind of, map that out for ourselves. So that's another great thing, is why another reason to revisit it every once in a while, just to kind of, and you get a different sense of what's going on. It's like Nick was saying. I mean, we were laughing at it at one point, but here I'm like, well, holy shit, this is a dark movie.
Yeah,
it really goes downhill fast. I mean, in terms of like the violence and just the escalation of it, and then just the attitude of the crooks and especially Macy is just, it's so icy and I it's a good word. I forgive the pun, but it's like it is as cold as the environment. Like some of the characters are just showing that.
Because there was also the scene when they were talking about the ransom.
Yeah,
and Jerry was talking to Stan Grossman, who was the accountant for Wade.
Yeah, mm-hmm.
And Stan was the one that brought it up, because he's like, well, how's Scotty doing, or what about Scotty? And then and Jerry's like, oh, Scotty, like he didn't even consider, like what this would do to his son, And then it comes home, the son's like a wreck. Like, why did this happen? And
Right.
Like he didn't even, he was so self-centered on this whole thing about him getting the money that he didn't even consider, like, even though this was set up, and even if it went to plan, what it would still do to his son.
Yeah. And then when Steve Buscemi's character is like, people are dead, you got to give me more money. He's like, I know I'm going to go after your son. And he's like, don't go after Scotty. But I didn't believe it. I felt like he was just kind of like, here's just another line I have to say. Like, I don't think he even cared about his son.
It was total acting.
Yeah.
Because he knew at that point this was still an act, right? Because even when he was rehearsing, when Gene was missing, like we hear him like, oh, Wade, and then he does it again. So we thought he was calling and we just weren't seeing it, but he was just rehearsing like how he was going to do it.
Yeah.
Oh, geez, Wade, oh, geez, like, so the guy is he's, I never want to think of him as being as cold and calculating, but he is.
He's sleazy. He's
worse. He's worse than Starmare and Buscemi. I mean, at least you know what you're getting with those guys. They've been in,
exactly.
But Macy is like,
you don't see it coming.
You don't, and it's killing.
All these machinations are kind of happening behind the scenes.
It's absolutely chilling. That is,
Yeah, I'm working with you here. I'm working here with you here on this thing.
I'm cooperating.
And he's and notice, like, she's the only one that gets him riled up.
Yeah.
Like he's even the first time when she, he's like acting all nervous, and she knew, like, she could sense it, like something up with this guy, even though
has to get snippy with me. I'm just doing my job.
Yeah. Yeah.
Again, she's so nice about it.
Right.
In that scene, she's just kind of like looking around the office, and she's kind of looking at things, and then she looks out the window, and he fucking drives off the curb. Like, he's fleeing the interview. He's fleeing the interview.
Yeah. And then she sees the Tan Sierra.
That's the car. That's the car.
Yeah.
So excited, because you get the impression that nothing ever happens there. Like she's never been, even though she's a really good cop and really good at detecting, she hasn't really been had to use those skills. You know, because you see how everybody else is so slow and they're standing around with the coffee and, you know, what do you think, Marge? You know, like that kind of stuff is kind of like they're all just kind of, it's a job that they do.
Yeah,
These
right.
guys, like, they kind of show up to their job. It just happens to be a sheriff or county, whatever they are. So, but again, it's just it's the world of the Coens. You know, they I don't know how much time they spend on it, but this world is so well defined.
Oh yeah.
You know, every character, the prostitutes, the people they interview, Mike Yanagita, you know, like all these things are and yeah, we're left wondering as well, what was that scene about? It might just be world built. Again, it puts us deeper into this world.
Yeah.
You know, and yeah, it gets us like Eric said, a little bit deeper feeling from Marge, you know, about what she's about. And then just the simple scenes like Nick said with her and her husband, when they're just every scene is almost like they're laying in bed or they're eating.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just kind of that simple stuff, you know, like, you know, the stamp.
It's
right?
sweet.
I'm on the 3-cent stamp, and he was like kind of depressed, but she was able to find the gold, the silver lining. It's like, well, when the stamps go up, people need the 3-cent stamp.
Yeah, she was always lifting them up.
And he smiled, and he kind of was like, you know what, you're right. You know, so
that's the contrast there, right? Like here's a family who's obviously struggling. They have a kid coming. They're kind of, you know, making ends meet, but they're getting through the day. They're trusting each other, and you know, he's doing his artwork and submitting these contests to be on the stamp. They're not going out there swindling people or trying to, you know, sabotage people or blackmail people or fake kidnap someone to, you know.
And she said it in that scene. She's like, you know, we're doing good, Norm.
Yeah.
Right. She kind of like recognized, like, you know what, this is like, for all the craziness that she's just seen recently, the triple homicide and all the you know, she's like, we're doing good. Like, you know, we have a
That's
good
why that was such a perfect ending. Yeah, it was really good.
It didn't seem to phase her at all. Like, she just took it in stride, you know, and just and remained true to who she was.
Yeah.
After all, you would think it would be traumatizing or something, you know, but she didn't. You never really saw that.
Yeah, she's able to separate it and she's able to understand that and see. Yeah. And I think when that's the thing is she saw all this ugliness, and that's when she's like, you know, Norm, we got it good here. You know, we have a good, you know, we have a house. We got the baby on the way, and you know, yeah, he goes ice fishing. You know, like I don't know what he does. You know, I guess he kind of paints part time, and that's just kind of what house husband, which is good. Like whatever the relationship is, they're good with it, and they're happy, and they love each other, and you can kind of see that too. You know, you could see that Norm really loves her. You know, because especially with the eggs.
Yeah, he's like,
you know, you got to have breakfast. You got to have eggs. I'll fix you eggs. You got to have breakfast. I'll fix you eggs. Yeah. You know, like,
and then he comes to visit her at work. You know, brings her lunch, and you know,
he's all over me.
Yeah. It's sweet. It's a sweet. For almost, you know, it's not even like because of what, you know, you want that in the film. You know, you need that little respite right there from the violence and the darkness. You know, it's like, and it doesn't go too far as to being like, you know, overdone or corny in any way. It's
yeah, and I'm glad they didn't make her hardened at the end, like 7 or something, like, you know, like she was like traumatized. You know, it was just like these things happened, and she, you know, goes back to being Marge. So,
well, who's to say that she's not keeping it bottled up? But you know, we don't know that. But
hopefully not.
You know, again, it's left to your imagination or to your, you know, interpretation.
They named the baby Jerry. Anyway, I think this is a good opportunity. Yeah. Kind of let's do some favorite scenes as we begin to wrap it up. So Nick, what do you got for?
I like all the scenes with Marge and her husband, but I love the money transfer when Wade gets shot. It's just surprise after surprise. You know, he pulls out a gun and, you know, he shoots Carl in the jaw, and it's just like you don't know what to expect as a viewer. So great storytelling, full of plot twists and a lot of action. Like I was on the edge of my seat when I saw it, and then rewatching it, I was still on the edge of my seat. I was like, this is just such great filmmaking and storytelling. So that's my favorite.
Eric?
I can't get enough of how good this movie looks. You know, that to me, that really stands out. It's, especially that overhead shot of the parking lot. And there's just these little black dots in the vast snow, and then you see him walking. It's somebody walking. Like, you don't know what it is at first. It's like, what is this? It's such a great shot. Everything about this, the way this movie looks is it's gorgeous. But you can feel the cold too. It's like, because the ice is almost blue. It's got that bluish hint to it. And it's like, yeah, it's just amazing stuff. But as far as scenes, I would say, probably the scene where, I think it's probably towards the end where, she goes and, the wood chipping scene, of course, is, it's, whatever. But when everything comes to a head and everything, when she, brings him in, and then they go after Macy, and that scene, and it's like he gets his comeuppance in that scene, and you're like, good.
But it's sad. He's yelling.
It is sad, but it's like I'm just like,
yeah.
It's like you're almost relieved that it's over. Like they caught him, they got him. This is and it's like you feel that it's like, this is like Nick was saying, it's just such a good story, so riveting that it keeps you right up to the end. You're just and you get that satisfaction, and I'm so glad for that, and the fact that she is not overly traumatized by it or shows any kind of effect of that way, that she's just going to go back to her husband and happy ending, maybe not, who knows, but that's another story.
Everything's reconciled.
Yeah, right. So
it remains to be seen.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be a giveaway that I can say anything with Harv Presnell. I'm telling you, I'm like in love with the guy, but most importantly, probably the whole loan scene, because anytime that Jerry is in a scene with Wade, he never has any leverage. You see that in all the other scenes, he's kind of controlling things. He's keeping the lone guy at bay, and he's talking to the gangsters, and he's kind of negotiating that kind of stuff. But anytime he's with Wade just kind of steamrolls him.
Yeah.
This is my show, Jerry. It's not, I'm called, and then when they're negotiating, he finally feels like he has some leverage. Like, well, Wade, they only want to deal with me, Wade. And, and Wade wasn't, he's like, well, I want to, hand them the money myself, and well, that's not, this is my deal, Wade, so he finally had like a deal that he was in control. Like I think for a moment, like that whole thing was almost satisfying to him, because he felt like he was in control. Like he was finally controlling Wade. Right.
Yeah.
But anyway, going back to the favorite scene is the scene with the loan.
Right.
He thought he was getting the money, because he talked about it earlier on the phone. He's like, hey, like 2:30, come up and see me. And he thought, oh, okay, we're gonna.
He was all excited and yeah.
No, I don't want a finder's fee. I need the principal.
And they're looking at him like, are you kidding? Like, what were you thinking?
And then that scene when he's like scraping the ice, that's one of those few times when his facade kind of cracks, when he's just like, he's probably had to scrape ice every day of his life, right? And he's just like, all the stuff that's he's losing control. So like when he's just like, yeah, come on, and then he gets back again. He's like, that's enough.
Even the simplest, the most mundane thing, the most normal thing that he, like you saying, like scraping the ice, he can't do it.
Yeah,
because he's just so out of control. Like it's beyond his control.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So pent up with like frustration. That whole doodling thing that came from William H. Macy. He was doing like those doodles on the pad while he was like waiting for stuff, and they're like, we're gonna make that a part of Jerry. The whole like on the pad, making all the circles and all those nervous ticks. You know, like he needs outlets. For that, and that's where when the scraping the ice, like it just overflows, it just overwhelms him, but William H. Macy was so masterful at kind of keeping that, it wasn't like a slow burn, because he never really exploded. Even when he exploded, he was faking when he's like, what the Christ, you're darn tootin', I'll do a lockout. He wasn't really like he was performing for her.
He was performing,
exactly. Like, he really wasn't. There really wasn't that anger, except for the ice scraping scene. That was really the only time when
And then
he got really angry.
the very end, when he becomes an animal.
Well, yeah, when he got caught.
He literally has nowhere to go. He knows there's no tomorrow, and all this pent up
they're like
emotion just like comes out.
Mr. Anderson, yeah. Mr. Anderson, yeah. 1 minute. Mr. Anderson, yeah. It's like he's always still trying to placate people, and then they try to climb out the window. So anyway, oh boy, that's going to do it for Fargo. Again, as you can see, we had so much fun talking about it because it's such a great. There are a lot of people that don't get this film. Oddly enough, they're like, I don't understand it. I've tried to watch it a couple times and I don't get it. I guess you just need to have. I don't want to say an elevated sense of humor because we might get some people angry. And maybe it was the time that we first saw it. Maybe at that point we're just really open to the quirkiness of this film because that's
that's the thing about the Coens. They challenge you.
Yeah,
they certainly do. Some people, like I didn't get Raising Arizona when I first saw it. I was like, what is this? Like what is? But you didn't care, like it because it was just so different and so fresh and so like and that's part of the charm. I wish there were more films like this today.
I think you'd enjoy the Fargo series, so you should check it out. 5 seasons.
Yeah, I've seen clips with Billy Bob Thornton, because he was in the first season.
Every season is a different storyline, different timeline, all set in the same universe, same geographic area.
And Colin Hanks is in the first season too, I believe, right?
Yep. So, season 4 has Chris Rock. It's more gangster based. And it's really, I liked it. I loved it.
Yeah, I'll have to.
So, would you say this is this a personal favorite, Dean, for you of the Coens, or?
Yes, it was real. I mean, I saw Blood Simple, but was not aware of the Coen Brothers. I just saw the film for seeing it. I think this was the first time, I saw this in the theater and was like, oh, okay, I need to pay attention. To these guys, because then Brother and just again going into each, you're dropping into each one of their universes. When you see their films, and from being Llewyn Davis, inside Llewyn Davis, you're dropping into the 60s, folk era, and Intolerable Cruelty is a kind of more of a romantic comedy, but they just keep dropping into these different things, but then still putting their weird sensibility on it. So it's not like they're trying to make a romantic comedy that everybody wants to see. They're still going to put their spin on it, and it'll always be something different. So I think that's going to do it for this episode of the 3324 podcast. Nick Leshy,
thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us. Again, reminder, if you've made it this far into the episode, go click the link in the show notes because it's right below you. Go check out Nick's YouTube podcast extravaganza.
Thank you.
Yeah. Paranormal Popcast and Greatest Characters in Pop Culture.
Yep.
So go check
City of Kick Entertainment.
Entertainment. You don't need, if you click the link, you won't need to know any of that. Nick wants you there, but go check it out. He has a myriad of guests, and it's always interesting. His takes are always very interesting as well, and I love listening to it because I love listening to his breadth of knowledge as well, and his
I appreciate that. Thank you
for the arts. So it's always a good listen, a great adjunct to our what we do here, or maybe we're an adjunct to what he does. There's many ways to skin a cat.
I sense a crossover at some point.
Oh,
maybe
the city of 3324.
That would be interesting if we did like one of the character episodes and we talked about that on our show.
And then we went on his show,
or vice versa, whatever. Yeah,
we went on his show and just berated him for a half hour.
How dare you not like Heat? How dare you not think it's one of the greatest movies of all time?
You can have us on your show, and you could do the anti-Heat episode. You can say why I hate. You can put us on, and we can go under the roaster. And you could be the guy. Hey, you could be the archer firing the arrows this time.
There you go.
With the shield deflecting them. So anyway,
possibilities are endless.
They are, and we look forward to them as well. So that's going to do it. Again, Nick, thank you so much for joining us. Always a great time when you come on. And of course, Eric and I will be here waiting for you until we see you again with another episode, hot and ready and warm out of the oven. You can check those out. Make sure you follow us. And again, if you want to communicate with us, you can do that in the app. There's a thing that says message us or fan mail. You can let us know there. You can send us some stuff. We can't respond to that, but if you want a two-way conversation, hit us up on Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube, and we would be more than happy to conversate about Fargo or any other subject you would like. And Nick is very involved there too. So if you want to reach out to Nick there, you can tag Nick on some of the stuff, and I'm sure he'll love to talk about it as well. So for Nick, for Eric, this has been Dean asking you to please be kind. Go ahead. Rewind.
You've been listening to the 3324 podcast with Dean Legiro and Eric Cooper. You can find us on your favorite podcast provider, so please like, subscribe, and rate to become a part of the 3324 family. Your feedback is important, so make sure to follow us on Instagram and Facebook at 3324 podcast and on Twitter at 3324p to join the conversation.